Hi, welcome back. So yesterday we spoke about, or sort of ended about, uh, talking about how God was going to restore the Davidic line. And here Jeremiah prophesied about the restoration of that line through the Messiah, Jesus Christ. He spoke about a future where the narrative of Israel will change from telling the story of God as the one who brought them out of Egypt, which was the story of their forefathers in the time of Moses, but now to be the God that brought them back to the land from exile. Now, Yahweh Tsidkenu, the Lord is our righteousness. Now, this was a name that I'd attributed to God the Father before, just knowing all the names of God. But here, reading chapter 23, verse 6, I understand that it is the designation for the ruler of Israel on the prophecy of the coming Messiah. So Jesus is Yahweh Tsidkenu. And I was just very blown away to find this out. Apparently, God considered Jerusalem and Judah's sin worse than Israel and Samaria, its capital sin. And he judged the priests and the prophets. He said that as he judged the priests and prophets. Israel's prophets prophesied to or by Baal, right? But Jerusalem's prophets, right? They caused the people to err. Israel's prophets prophesied by Baal and caused the people to err. But Jerusalem's prophets were worse than Israel's, because in fact God compared them to Sodom and Gomorrah, the primary example of wicked, the SI unit for wickedness in the Old Testament. And he said because they were committing adultery, lying in his name. So they were false in the sense that they were pretending to worship but doing something else. At least the Israelites were very outright about the fact that it was Baal, but these ones were doing, some kind of what we like to call corner things. And he called out the false prophets with their fake dreams and that were leading people astray. Chapter 24 and 25, if you read it in context, where it's sort of flashbacks. So just before Jeremiah had a vision of the 2 baskets of figs, Nebuchadnezzar had taken captive the leaders and the skilled craftsmen of Judah, including Jeconiah. We spoke about him, son of Joachim. We'd read about them earlier in 2 Kings and 2 Corinthians, I think last week or so. Through the vision, God revealed his plans to the people in exile. Turns out that the exile wasn't even really just about punishment. It was really about restoring or protecting the true remnant and rejecting the faithless like King Hezekiah and Zedekiah and his followers. For the good figs, so if you remember what the good figs and the bad figs, that's what he was saying. So for the good figs, God promised to give them a new heart that knows him. Not just outward conformity, but inward renewal, which was something that was really needed, because we've established that for Judah, their hearts were far from God. This is something that I personally pray to experience, because it's easy to just get, sidetracked following religion and rituals, and truly your heart is just far from God. But especially some of us who have been Christians for a while, after a while things are just by rote. But the fact is that rote is not acceptable. Your heart must always be in the right posture towards God. The bad figs, obviously, we're going to get sword, famine, and pestilence. What's this word now? I don't know what I wrote here, but to find out that in chapter 25, Jeremiah had been first. Oh yes, I was very, very shocked to find out that Jeremiah had been prophesying for 23 years to these people, and they still refused to listen. 23 years at this point. He wasn't even the only prophet sent to them with the same message of repentance, but the people were still being rebellious. The Babylonian exile lasted for 70 years, and even though Babylon was the instrument that the Lord used to accomplish his judgment of his people, they too were under divine condemnation. It was eventually conquered, that's Babylon, by Cyrus of Persia. Now God's wrath, yes, I remember, yes, I said I was going to say, I kept saying wrath before, but it's actually wrath. I don't know what, or wrath means something else, I don't know, like wrought iron. Anyway, God's wrath was symbolic of a cup of wine, not only for Jerusalem to drink, but all the nations would also drink from it. And here's the lesson that I learned about God. God gave us Jesus to become righteousness for us. We can never be righteous by ourselves, not by our words, our actions, our deeds, nothing. Jeremiah 23, 5-6 lets us know that Jesus didn't just show up in the New Testament. The Lord our righteousness, that's Jesus, Jehovah Tsidkenu, was our righteousness. Jesus is God, right? And he came in human form to die for us, and he resurrected and gave us his righteousness. So that is how we have righteousness and right standing with the Lord, with God the Father. How amazing is that? Thank you for joining me. We're still on Jeremiah's story. It's a long one, but yeah, we're getting there. So tomorrow I'll be sharing lessons from 26 to 29, and I look forward to sharing them with you. See you here. Bye.